Hey there, we are here with Sara from Kindred Weddings and Events, and I'm so glad that you decided to join in as one of the very first boot campers ever to talk about your progress over a year in getting more SEO traffic for your site. So thanks so much for coming on this little video interview.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to share how I got here.
Good. All right. Well, let's do a little rewind because I really want to understand and have everyone understand where you were in June of 2019 when you decided to join bootcamp.
So I had just surpassed 2 years in my wedding planning business, and I was starting to book a lot of inquiries who weren't referred to me. So they were finding me in different locations. Some were through Instagram, some were Wedding Wire, places where it was easy to have a listing. And at the end of 2018 is when I decided I'm going to start doing a yearly review of all my weddings. What went right, the highs and the lows, if I would work with this couple again, all that kind of stuff to figure out what I liked and what I didn't like. And what I noticed is that the highest, rated weddings for me in my review were all the weddings that had a smaller guest count. And that completely changed and transformed my business model, my ideal client, my planning process, and I decided I'm going to focus on intimate weddings. So I was about to embark on something really big. I was like, I have to rebrand. I need to rewrite my copy. I need to redo my website. I need a different template. I need to niche down into this new market. So I wanted to make sure my website was successfully going to point people to me when they were using certain keywords. I didn't want to just be a name on a list. I wanted someone to say, this is what I know I want, and now I found it.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that you were in that big kind of niching down and thinking about your client. I love that you came into bootcamp knowing that and knowing what kind of wedding you were looking for.
It
So
was my big push and prep for the new website.
Awesome. That totally makes sense. So obviously when you're going to join a program and learn something new, it can be a little bit scary. So I was hoping you could talk about some of your concerns about SEO and your marketing before you decided to join Wedding SEO Bootcamp.
So before bootcamp, my marketing was very slapdash haphazard here and there. I had tried doing Yelp, which was just a giant bummer. I had tried Facebook ads in a course like a boot camp, but it just never felt like I was getting connected with my ideal clients in that way. I tried doing advertising with larger publications, and it just wasn't the right fit. And I think I had two really big fears when I heard the word SEO. I firstly thought it was super rigid and going to be about coding. And I was like, I don't know how to do any of that. I'm terrified. And secondly, I was also afraid it was going to be really repetitive, super meticulous, and my whole website would be the same exact information on every page to pound it in. And so all of that made me feel like, I don't know if I'm the right person to implement these tools. I should just hire a professional. This is going to be too difficult, too time consuming for me to do, even though I'm totally a learner and I like to be hands-on. I let those fears sink in a little too much.
Yeah, I'm really curious why you changed your mind, decided to do boot camp and learn it yourself as opposed to either ignore it or hire someone to do it.
It was actually your suggestion because I reached out to you and I said, hey, I want to do a free consult. My friend suggested you help me fix my SEO. And you took a look at my website and you were so upfront saying you're growing and you're changing, but you're at the point where we have to make a lot of implementation, and it might be better for you to do it now yourself to then see that growth to where somebody else can step in and take it to the next level. And I thought that was just so honest and approachable and respectable that somebody wasn't trying to upsell me on something. Instead, you said, here's this other thing that's new. let's try it out.
Let's try it. Yeah, that was the point where bootcamp was brand new too. And your
Yes.
situation was one of the reasons that I wanted to have an entry-level program, because your website was small. It didn't have a lot of authority yet. So it actually didn't make sense for you to make a big investment to have SEO done for you when there were some things you could learn and some basic tweaks that would really pay off for you, which I think that you've seen. Let's talk a little bit about, since you had those concerns, is there any way that those concerns were addressed through doing bootcamp?
Absolutely. The foundation that you introduced us to allowed me to see, first of all, that I don't need to learn how to code or have a background in website design to take control of my SEO. The steps were really broken down into super easy, implementable steps that are done in a day. And there were resources to then follow up on those things to pinpoint, how is this working? How is this tracking, without having to just go, well, I don't know how it's working. There was always like a follow-up. And then B, I saw that SEO actually opened up my website and opened the doors for more valuable information and differentiated content, so that then I didn't have to repeat myself. I was constantly sharing something new, and there were more chances for my ideal client to find me.
That's awesome. You've done a really good job with that. I wanted to ask you if there was something useful you learned through class that maybe surprised you.
I think the thing that surprised me the most was when you showed us step by step the words on our website and how they actually translate in terms of what the users are searching for. Because I always thought of what I do in terms of what I'm doing. So like, here's me doing this thing, but I learned I needed to use the user experience and talk from their perspective and their experience quite a bit more than I expected to. You think of a sales page, I'm selling something, and it's like, no, you're selling to like that person on an experience.
Yeah.
So I think the way the SEO and like those kind of concepts and words merge was really eye-opening.
Yeah, I love that about SEO. I sometimes feel like learning about keywords is like looking inside people's brains, because you get to learn what they're searching for and the actual language they use, which is a lot of times different than what we think it is, being inside the industry.
Different.
So that's one of my favorite things to always discover. All right. Well, we should probably talk about results, because you're here because I've been following you over the last year, and you've been doing really consistent things, the right things, and you're seeing some great results. So what results can you share with us about your business over the last year?
Well, I think the results kind of come in two different camps. There's obviously like the emotional result of, I feel like I'm doing the thing I'm supposed to do and I'm passionate about it. And I feel like I get connected with those passionate people that feel that same way, like getting those inquiries where somebody says, I felt like you were talking just to me, or like, I really connected with this piece on your website. I'm like, I've never heard that from an inquiry or a client before. And then to even get reviews back from clients that said, oh my gosh, you were able to make this experience for us because of how you focus on small weddings. And then of course you have kind of the logistical data sort of results. This year in 2020 so far, 36% of my inquiries have come from Google, which is a huge increase because I don't think I ever had an inquiry from Google before. I mean, in the next highest category I have is Instagram, which is only 18%. So it's exactly double. And I feel like I put more energy into Instagram than I do on my website on a, weekly basis.
That's such a good point. Yeah.
And then 50% of my bookings are from Google.
Wow. Which
surprised me and like filled me with just glee, because I was like, oh my gosh, my people are finding me. Like I'm doing the thing I'm supposed to do. And again, the next highest category is 10% from referrals. So there's a huge gap between where people are finding me when they book. And honestly, I think it's because the couples are more likely to book me. They found me on a website using their own words, my website copy, put them at ease in some way. They found someone who specializes in that solution that fixes their problem.
Yeah. And with the content you've written, you've really brought in people that probably had a certain problem and didn't know who could fix it for them. And there you are with a great, helpful article on a really relevant topic. So that totally makes sense to me.
Yeah. And with that blog technique, is what I'm going to call it, understanding how my couples are finding me and learning what they're searching for and just using that to my advantage. I used to see big spikes in website views on the days where I posted a blog post, and then it would just trickle right off. It was like, boom, you got so many views, and it was so exciting, but it was kind of like a mirage. It was probably me clicking on it a million times to make sure it looked good. But now my blog views are consistent, and the content has transitioned from being something that's like a one-time share to something that's super evergreen that I can go back and say, yeah, maybe I need to update this a little bit with some, new information for, this year or the trends, but I can just keep sharing it over and over and over again. And I can share it on multiple platforms.
Yes. And it's going to keep bringing traffic in for you, which I think is a really special thing when you create a great blog article or optimize your site well. It can continue to work for you over time.
Yeah.
You put in the work at the beginning to do that post and to do the optimization. And now it's going to pay off for you. I am curious though, the articles you've written on your blog are excellent, and they're in depth, and they have great information for the searcher. So I want to ask you how much time and effort went into each of the pieces of content you wrote for SEO.
I would say I probably put around 10 hours into each blog post. I try and follow, a bit of a schedule. It's very similar to the one you shared that you use. So I make sure that I have 2 blog posts that I'm getting out a month, if I can, depending on what else is going on with weddings. And I make sure that I either write first and then find my photos. If it's a real wedding, I'll usually find my photos first and then write based inspired on the images that I picked. But it definitely has required a lot of updating of things, especially when it comes to, articles that are relevant to right now. I am learning new things, adding in the new information, making sure it stays up to date, and just adding in as many updates as I can.
That's great. I appreciate you sharing that, because I don't want anyone to think that you just spent 5 minutes, wrote off the top of your head, put it on your website, and it's worked out for you. You've really put a lot of effort in. So you're a great example of what it takes for SEO.
Yeah. And sometimes those blog posts, I'm writing them a month, 2 months out, because I know I'm not going to want to do it when it comes to the week that it's supposed to be published.
So smart. I know sometimes the deadline crunch is too much. It helps to plan.
For sure.
All right. Well, to wrap up, I want to ask you what you would say to another wedding planner who's considering joining a future round of Wedding SEO Bootcamp.
I would say you kind of have to trust the process. It's not going to come easy, and it's going to take time. It wasn't right away that I saw any sort of huge growth. It wasn't until I had tried implementing a few things, had, fallen down a few times, picked myself back up and figured out, okay, what's a different tactic? What's a different keyword? What's a different whatever I can use to get me where I want to go? A really, really small percentage of couples, it's like something like 10%, that are currently engaged are actually going to hire a wedding planner. Yeah. So it's really easy to let those numbers scare you and feel like you're going to miss out on a wedding if you say no to somebody. But you don't want to just be saying yes to every couple that inquires, because it's not possible for them to be your ideal client if you haven't taken the time with SEO. You want the ones who are going to come to your website and know exactly what you do, know what they're looking for, and find the connection, so you can be, moving towards being a perfect fit for them.
So good. I appreciate that. I really appreciate you sharing your whole experience. I can't
absolutely.
wait to share some little anonymized screenshots of your results so people can really see how this has taken off for you, and the patience that you've had with the process and the way this works. So thanks so much for sharing with everybody.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
You bet.